Welcome to Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And back with me this week, my co-host, Stephen Young of Roto Grinders, better known as Stevie TPFL. And this week, we're previewing the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway here on Running Hot. Last weekend at Dover, Denny Hamlin was able to hold off a hard-charging Chase Briscoe, his JGR teammate there, who had fresher tires, but Denny able to hold him off on a restart, and Alex Bowman comes home third as the top Chevy finisher, as it was a very JGR and Hendrick Motorsports dominant day for a good while there. The top 8 was 4 Hendrick cars and 4 JGR cars for a good chunk of that Dover race. Stevie, what do you think of Dover?
I thought it was good. I would have made a lot more money had the race ended when it was raining, but on the DFS side, the betting side, I actually made more money because the race went back green, so it was very interesting. I had Alex Bowman as top Chevy for a bet. I had a lot of Alex Bowman exposure last week at Dover. I thought he was very undervalued for how good Alex Bowman was at Dover. So good week. Denny doing his thing. I mean, like, this guy just keeps winning. He just keeps performing at such a high, like, top end level. He's still elite, and he's getting towards the end of his career. Like, he's just not slowing down, where we saw some guys in the same position kind of slow down. So love it for Denny. He's crushing. JGR, like you mentioned, Hendrick Motorsports. I love the call that Chase Briscoe's team made. I mean, they gave him a 8th to 10th place car a chance to win the race. But, I mean, overall, you know, there was a lot of question marks with the new tire. I thought the racing at Dover was good. Just can't pass the leader. We got to fix that.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it did cool off. We had the rain delay, and so the heat cycle on that all goes away. The tires cool off, and all of a sudden, everybody's back on level playing field, even though Briscoe had new tires to a degree, right? Like, the new tires would have helped, but he just needed more time to get past Denny, not on a green, white checkers too little too late there. Because we saw earlier in the day when it was hot and before it had rained, the tire did fall off, and we actually saw some cording even from AJ Allmendinger. Eric Jones had a tire issue, but we actually just saw the tires wear. But I think once the rain cooled everything off, it leveled the playing field a little too much on tires, which really helped Denny there. But one stat I did see, Kevin Harvick, when he was 44 years old, he had 4 wins at this point in the season. Denny Hamlin, 44 years old, 4 wins at this point in the season. So, he's pulling off what Kevin Harvick did in his age 44 season. Unfortunately for Harvick, it didn't go well after that. So, it remains to be seen how things go with Denny in the future. But you're right. I mean, he's coming towards the end of his career, and he's still winning, much like Kevin Harvick was. So it'll be interesting to see, how Hamlin's age 45 and beyond seasons track compared to Kevin Harvick's age 45 and beyond seasons. Now, I do think Hamlin's going to be on better footing here running for JGR, whereas Harvick was running for Stewart-Haas, which was last few years on its way out of the door and didn't really have great cars there. So I do think it'll bode better for Denny than it did for Harvick after their age 44 seasons. But just something to think about there. But I agree with you. I thought Dover overall was a good race, other than not being able to pass the leader at the end right there on much fresher tires. But this week, we're on to a different track. We are going to the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Yes, the same place that hosts the Indianapolis 500, my favorite race in the world. But now we're taking NASCAR stock cars there and running the Brickyard 400, which could be, I guess, considered one of the crown jewels, although we raced on the Indy road course from 2021 to 2023. But there was a lot of clamoring to bring back the Brickyard 400. They did last year. Race was awesome, in my opinion, last year. I think we're going to see another good one. Talk about racing at Indy, Stevie.
Before we get into Indy, I just want to ask you really quick. Are you excited about the San Diego announcement with the naval base for next year? I think that is going to bring a lot of attention to the sport. And I mean, I saw the layout. I think it's really cool. I just wanted to really quickly get your thoughts on the announcement that happened today, basically here on Wednesday. I know we post this on Thursday, but how cool is that, man? I think it's so cool.
I think it's awesome. Now, the layout is still to be finalized. It was kind of a preliminary layout they were using for the advertising. But, on the naval base, which of course includes a lot of like runway type stuff. I've always loved runway courses. When I was I've been an IndyCar fan my whole life, and they used to run on the Cleveland airport, and that was some of the best racing I have ever seen in the history of open wheel racing. So if we get something like that in Cup, that's going to be just fantastic. 250th, anniversary of the Navy and the United States.
So
So
cool.
it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited for that event. And I thought the advertising for it was really good too. So definitely stoked about that. So that'll be coming up next year in the San Diego area. NASCAR will be running on the naval base there. So we'll be looking forward to that. So let's get back to Indy. What are your thoughts on this one, Stevie? Talk about this race.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mix when we come here because it's like big enough that you can pit before the end of the stage and gain track position. So now we're factoring in, and you have to be within, I think it's like, what is it, 14 seconds or something from the lead, or 12 seconds, something like that. But now we're factoring back into this like stuff that we talked about on road courses where, who can short pit, who's going to stay out for stage points, who's going to lose track position. Last year, track position was so important here because it was the first time we ran here with the next gen car. So track position was so important, but we're getting to that time where the Bushers of the world, they're going to try to get these stage points, so I think that's something that you got to kind of factor in. But I mean, I like racing at the Brickyard. I know that like people have said that it's boring, over the last 10 years, but it's such a iconic racetrack that give me this racetrack 10 times out of 10 times over the Indy road course.
I completely agree with you. I'm so glad we're back on the oval. It's just iconic. And again, I thought last year's race was really good. I think for some reason the next gen car seems to work well here, whereas the Gen 6 car, for whatever reason, didn't quite work as much, which is why they ended up switching to the road course because they thought the racing got kind of stale and boring. But I thought last year's event was really good. And it definitely has elements of Pocono, another 2.5-mile large flat track. But Pocono, different banking and different corners, different radiuses. In Indianapolis, it's all the same. Same banking in every turn. Each turn is 90 degrees, but different speeds entering the corner because you have two really long straightaways going into turn 1 and then going into turn 3. You have two short chutes where you go into turns 2 and 4. So still, Indy is, especially with IndyCar and the Indy 500, but even with the Cup cars, it is a finicky track. The track conditions will change and your handling will change. You have a tailwind down one part of the track and a headwind on the other part of the track. And, you really have to set up your car, get it dialed in and really hit all your corners, because if you make a mistake coming off 2 or you make a mistake coming off 4, you lose all that speed down these really long straightaways. So I think it's going to be another exciting race. And honestly, Stevie, I think this one's kind of wide open.
Yeah, I think it's wide open as well. I wasn't able to find a lot of markets for like fastest laps. This is one of those weeks where you are looking at some of these drivers that might have long odds for fastest laps. Like I think there were only 2 drivers that had over 10 fastest laps last year. And like you look through the list and like John Hunter Nemechek had the most fastest laps last year. So look at that market throughout the week. Here early in the week, I don't see really anything posted for that kind of stuff, but I just wanted to bring that up before I forgot about it because I almost forgot about it. So, but yeah, I mean, comping this racetrack to other tracks, like you mentioned, Pocono is an okay comp, but my highest correlation last year for this racetrack was just recent speed. So I'll be looking at recent speed. I'll be looking at practice speed, but that seemed to be the biggest correlation. And if you look at who was fast in practice last year and you look at race speed, it was very identical. So I think this is one of those weeks that your flags for practice, my practice model is going to be a huge factor in what I end up doing throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think even though Pocono is like the best air quote comp, I actually don't find it has a ton of correlation. I mean, it does, but not like a ton. And I'm with you. I'm using current form and Indy track history as well. I know we've only had one race here, but the RFK group looked really good here last year. There was a bunch of other strong drivers here last year, and back before 2021, we still had some drivers that ran on the Indy Oval then, and you could find some good performances on some of these big flat tracks, whether it's Indy or Pocono in the past. And you can pull in Michigan a little bit if you want. High horsepower, right? I mean, big track, lots of speed. I think you can pull in a little bit of Michigan as well. If you just want to talk a pure horsepower and aerodynamics perspective, I think you can pull in a little bit of Michigan as well. And you mentioned it, you can flip the stages here. So, of course, we always need to look at the playoff standings. And right now, Bubba Wallace leads Ryan Preece. So Bubba Wallace is in. Ryan Preece is the first guy out. But ahead of Bubba Wallace, we have Alex Bowman and Chris Buescher. I almost said Chase Briscoe. I always get the CBs mixed up. Got Christopher Bell too. But Chris Buescher and Alex Bowman, who are also kind of not completely in the safe zone. We think Tyler Reddick is in the safe zone, even though he doesn't have a win. So we're looking at potential points racing from a Preece, a Buescher, a Bubba Wallace, or an Alex Bowman. And like you said, you need to be within, I think it's more like 8 seconds at Indy because the pit road is a little different, a little longer. So I think you need to be within 8 seconds of the leader. And if you are, you can flip the stage. So, if you are a Denny Hamlin or a Ryan Blaney or some of these guys that are expected to be very fast and you're out front or near the front, you can flip the stage, pit before the stage ends, stay on the lead lap. But guys like Bowman, Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, etc., could be looking to stay out to get those stage points. And stage points are huge, Stevie. If we look at the playoff standings right now, we see that Bubba Wallace, like I said, is in and Ryan Preece is out. Well, Bubba Wallace has 139 stage points. Sorry, 132 to Ryan Preece is 69. So that is a 63-point difference in stage points. But Bubba Wallace is only ahead by 16 points. Without that, Bubba Wallace is like 37 points outside or 47 points outside of the playoff picture. So stage points are just massive. And I think all of these drivers that are not safe need to be looking at stage points.
I don't disagree with you at all. You're going to talk a lot about it on some of the bets you like. I'm going to talk about it in some of the bets on the opposite way. I mean, it's definitely a factor that I think you have to factor in early in the week before you get practice and qualifying.
Yeah, and speaking of not locked in to the playoffs and kind of near the playoff cut line, let's go to this in-season challenge, Stevie. We are at the finals of the in-season challenge. We saw some drama last weekend at Dover, not just for the win, but we had Ty Dillon versus John Hunter Nemechek. They were literally one car apart from each other until a late race caution. Ty Dillon gets the free pass and ends up winning that matchup. And then Ty Gibbs versus Tyler Reddick, again, next to each other on that last restart. And Ty Gibbs comes home victorious over Tyler Reddick. Is there a chance Ty Gibbs points races at all? I mean, he's not totally out of this on points. He is 52 points back from his Toyota stablemate, Bubba Wallace.
I mean, I think the simple answer is yes. I could definitely see him if he could finish top 5 in both stages, taking the stage points and trying to race back through the field. I mean, winning the in-season tournament, I think, is huge for either one of these guys, for either team. It's such a huge thing on the media side. Sponsors want you to win this. So I think, like, now that we're in the finals, like, they're probably factoring in a lot more. But I mean, if you're in the Gibbs camp, you're probably thinking, all right, we can get stage points and still beat Ty Dillon, and that's where they could potentially mess up, being like overconfident. So, you look at it and where he's at. I mean, it might be just one of those situations where they're like, hey, Bubba is in a good spot to get stage points. We have to stay out because we can't give him 15 extra points this weekend. So I think it's a real possibility. I think Gibbs is kind of where it's like cut off. Like, I don't see McDowell or AJ or Eric Jones or any of these guys running for points anymore. But I think, like, at the end of the day, if you're Kyle, Gibbs, Preece, Bubba, Buescher, Bowman, you want to win because nothing is safe with these races that we have coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even if Ty Gibbs gets top 5 every race from here out but doesn't win, if somebody on the outside looking in, gets a win, that moves the cut line up even further. So it makes it much harder for Ty Gibbs. So a lot of potential for different strategies. by the way, just final thoughts on this in-season challenge and on this matchup as well.
I can't even begin to say like how happy I am for Ty Dillon.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's awesome that he, I mean, like he did it the first couple weeks. He did it without doing much, some wrecks, but like he moved Alex Bowman to get there, and like
clean
road
move too.
course,
Nice normal
yeah,
standard bump and run.
yep, and like road course racing isn't his thing, so that was, I mean, that was awesome. And then, I mean, yeah, he was facing John Hunter this past weekend, but like he made it pass John Hunter before the caution came out, and like he drove it in there. So like,
Yeah.
you know, all these guys can like say, hey, you know, we don't care about this, but like, does he do that move if we're not in the in-season tournament? Who knows? But it worked. It stuck. He moved on, and kudos to him. Kudos to this team. In realistic terms, I think Ty Gibbs beats him 90% of the time, but we are in a high variance sport, and 10% of the time is all Ty Dillon has needed this whole bracket challenge. So I think everyone knows that I am definitely rooting for Ty Dillon here.
Yeah, I am not, simply because I have a 50-1 on Ty Gibbs, but I did get a little hedge in, so you know, that way I can make some money here. But I was telling my buddy Jordan Maccabee of Rotoballer on Gibbs 50-1. So I only had two.
I'm rooting for you too, though. Yeah, I'm rooting for you too. There you go.
I had Suarez 70-1 and I had Gibbs 50-1. Those were the only two pre-tournament bets I made on the outright. So was able to hedge and I'll lock in some profits. That's kind of nice. But anyway, we need to get on to the Brickyard 400. Almost said the Indianapolis 500. So let's dive into some bets. As always, we're going to drive through the race stage by stage. We'll give our shorter odds pick in stage 1 and a longer odds pick in stage 2. Finally, we're going to race through stage 3 and end up in victory lane with our combined favorite bet. So it's time to throw the green flag on the Brickyard 400 and fire off for stage 1. All right, Stevie, we're coming down, crossing the bricks, going into turn 1. What do you got for us as we fire off into turn 1 at Indy?
I almost bet this outright and decided against it. I'm going Brad Keselowski for a top 10 at plus 130. Brad Keselowski ran out of fuel leading this race with 2 laps to go in the green-white checkered last year. And they're in a very similar position as they were last year, below the cut line. They need a win. If he has speed, which he's had plenty of speed this year, he's just had very unlucky and circumstances out of his control with some tires. Like Brad has had speed to win 5+ races this year. So if we're looking at the speed for this year, thinking about like, there's no chance this dude's racing for stage points. He has one of the most aggressive crew chiefs in the Cup Series. Like, I love this. I mean, yeah, I think you could potentially bet an outright. I'm probably going to wait till practice and qualifying, and even if I get it a little shorter odds, I'm okay with it. But I thought the top 10 at plus money at plus 130 even was nice value to, hey, this guy's out of it. He's had a ton of speed, and he's going to be on the optimal strategy for track position. They're going to risk it at some point to try to win the race. And when you look at the schedule that's left, yeah, he could win at Daytona, no doubt. But Watkins Glen, Iowa, these aren't like the best tracks for him. So I think this is the week that, like, if you're RFK, you have this one circled for Brad Keselowski to try to get that win to get in. So, yeah, I mean, I think the top 10 is the safer of the bets, and that's my stage 1 pick this week.
I completely agree with you. I like Brad Keselowski's upside as well. If you want to go top 5, top 3, win. He's also just been great at Indy in his career. He was fast at Pocono earlier this year, led 27 laps. This is a really good spot for Brad Keselowski. And like you said, he can go on whatever optimal strategy he needs or whatever strategy call they think they need. Last year, it was the fuel save that almost got them there. But whatever they need to get Brad Keselowski into the playoffs, they will do. And now, last year, of course, Keselowski was already locked in with that Darlington win, but you get the idea. It's still win mode anyway for Keselowski because he's not pointing his way into the playoffs here. So, yeah, totally fine with that. The thing for me, like, and I agree with you, like, I haven't bet many outrights this week, almost because, at least for me, I like too much. And I think a lot of it comes from the fact that, like, Larson and Denny are like in the 550 neighborhood, and Blaney's like 750, and then everybody's double digits or longer. And it's like, man, how can I pass up Byron 12-1, or Bell 14-1, or Keselowski 20 whatever, or Busher, or Hocevar, or Bubba, or all these. I'm like, man, there's so many drivers. Austin Cindric 60-1 or 80-1 or whatever it is. Like, there's just way too many drivers I like this week that it's a bad thing in a way. So I am being very, very, very picky with my outright bets, simply because if I wasn't, I would have so many things to fire off that almost would be a bad thing. So I'm with you. I'm going to wait to see some practice speeds. But with that said, on Keselowski, I fully agree with you. I think you can bet almost whatever bet you want on Keselowski this week. And for my stage one pick, I think you can bet almost any bet you want with this guy this week, and that's Bubba Wallace. Now, if you're following me in the Action Network app, or if you read on actionnetwork.com or in the app, I'm on Bubba Wallace this week. I took him 40-1 to win. I don't think there's any 40s out there, except maybe at Circa Sports. I don't know if that has moved at this point, but earlier today, Circa still had Bubba Wallace at 40-1. But definitely like that. I would play it down to around 30-1. I think there's still 35 at BetMGM, which is bettable. But also, if you want to play his top Toyota, I think Bubba Wallace stage bets, stage one or stage two, winning those stage bets, I think are in play because of what we talked about with the points. He's one of those that's possibly going to stay out. Now, that might hurt his upside to win, but I also think if they feel they have the car to win, they'll do whatever it takes to win to lock him into the playoffs. Because last year, Bubba Wallace led 16% of this race. And Bubba Wallace at Indy, three top tens in his three finishes here. Now, he had one DNF in his rookie year, but two of those top tens were with Richard Petty Motorsports way back, in the Gen 6 era, when Petty, kind of wasn't a great team. Yeah, they're Legacy Motor Club now. They're still not an amazing team, but if Bubba Wallace is finishing third and ninth in those cars and running 50% higher statistics in like average running position or driver rating than he normally does at an average track, that's huge. And then last year did the same thing. He ran 30% better at Indy than he does at his average track when he's been with 23XI Racing. So I think you can pretty much play any Bubba Wallace bet. So I took him for top 10. I took him outright. I think if you want to take his top Toyota, there's a 14-1 available because, some of the outrights have moved or stage bets, things like that. Give me whatever Bubba Wallace bets you want. I'll let you guys pick and choose. You've seen what I've tracked in the Action Network app.
Yeah, I mean, Toyota was just on another level with speed here last year. So we'll talk more about this in my stage two bet and in victory lane. But yeah, I mean, I'm on the Toyota train very heavily heading into the weekend.
All right, so stage one recap. Stevie, Brad Keselowski, top 10 plus 130. And me personally, I'm good with almost any Keselowski bet you want to make. And same for me, Bubba Wallace. I'm pretty much good with any bet you want to make. I took Bubba Wallace to win, and I took his top 10 in the Action Network app, but I like his top Toyota or his stage bets as well. So that's stage one. We took the green and white checkers on that stage. We're going to come in, fuel up, get some new tires, and take the green flag for stage two. Okay, stage two here, Stevie. You just talked about them. You got a manufacturer bet.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of going with the theme of the show here. I'm going with Toyota plus 140. I mean, this was a bet that I bet a lot last year. I don't know how many times I've actually bet it this year. Not as much as last year by any means. So, I mean, just looking at the speed from this race last year, Reddick, Hamlin, Bubba, Bell, John Hunter, Nemechek, all had a ton of speed. Martin Truex had speed. He had a lot of speed early and then just had nightmare after nightmare with that car. And some wrecks hurt some of these Toyotas towards the end, but realistically, had NASCAR thrown the Ryan Preece caution when he couldn't move and they were on turn 3 and 4 still, I think Tyler Reddick has a shot at Larson on that final restart to potentially win this race. So, yeah, I mean, when we look at the 2025 speed that, we talked about how it factored in, I mean, if you're just looking at speed from this year, I mean, Denny has been incredibly fast. Tyler Reddick has been fast. Christopher Bell has been fast. So, and then you start looking at Denny has 4 wins. He can be on a different strategy. Bell has 3 wins. He can be on a different strategy. Tyler Reddick is so far in front in points. He can try to be on a strategy to win. So I just think it's a really good spot for Toyota. I think they're going to be battling Penske and Hendrick like it is every single week. But I think it's a good Toyota spot just in general.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Toyota had a ton of speed, and go back to the beginning of the year. I took Toyota over 9.5 wins. They have 8 right now. 4 with Denny, like you said, 3 with Christopher Bell, and 1 with Chase Briscoe. We haven't gotten the Bubba Wallace win or the Ty Gibbs win. We have not gotten any of the legacy wins, but those are all still possibilities. Legacy Motor Club runs really well here. John Hunter, so fast here last year. Eric Jones, always been great at the big flat tracks. So there's non-zero chances we could even, I brush off these like non-zero chances before, but I was like, well, I'll take Penske to win, Logano or Blaney, and there's non-zero chance, I guess, Austin Cindric. And then, of course, Austin Cindric goes and wins last year. I think it was at Gateway or something. So, we can't brush off these non-zero chances as well. I think Toyota should be the manufacturer to beat here. So Stevie going with Toyota to win plus 140 for his stage 2 pick. For my stage 2 pick, going back to the theme here of playoff contenders that are not safe that could point their way in. I talked about Bubba Wallace. Now I'm going to go to Chris Buescher. And crazy enough, right now, as we're recording this on Wednesday evening, at Bet365, Chris Buescher is 33-1 to win stage 1, and he's 28-1 to win stage 2. Now, let's go to the Brickyard 400 last year. We had another guy, Bubba Wallace, who was in a need to get points situation, and he won stage 2. Like I said, I like Bubba Wallace for stage bets in the stage 1 pick as well. But I think Chris Buescher as well could be on this Bubba Wallace strategy from last year and take either stage 1 or stage 2. Now let's go to Pocono from this year. Guess who qualified second? Chris Buescher. Denny Hamlin qualified first. Chris Buescher qualified second. They finished first and second in stage 1, but maybe Denny decides, or he's going to come in and pit this time, or maybe Buescher just passes him. But the idea is Buescher should be staying out at least one of these stages, which gives him a very good chance to win the stage, especially if he qualifies as well as he did earlier this year at Pocono. I think with the speed that Ford has really shown in qualifying, especially at some of these big tracks, I think we'll see Buescher starting close enough to the front that he's going to be a good bet to win, if not stage 1, then certainly just with his race speed, he should be moving forward and having a good shot to win stage 2. So shop these around if you can. I believe Caesars has some stage bets. I don't think they're quite as good value, but even then, I mean, if you can get Buescher 20-1 for a stage, I don't care which stage it is, right? Because Buescher's 16-1 to win the race, and he's almost more likely to win a stage than he is to win the race, just given the potential strategy that he's going to be on.
Again, RFK, the speed, even Ryan Preece, like the speed for RFK has been fantastic this season. And it might just be one of those situations where do you see Buescher, like you said, potentially takes that stage 1, tries to get those points if he's in a great spot to do it and win the stage. And then like stage 2, he can short pit. Like, let's get the track position back for a good finish. So I could see something along those lines, or like you said, you only realistically need one of these 2 bets to hit to have your value match. So is it vice versa? Hey, I don't have the track position. I'm going to try to do something different in stage 1 and short pit, and then I take my stage 2 victory if all these guys pit. So I think there's a lot of ways for this to get there, and I think that's all you're kind of hoping for when you're looking at these incredibly large odds on him with the speed that he's had.
Yeah, and just going back to Bubba Wallace, he's 22-1 and 28-1 for stages 1 and 2, respectively. I like those. And you just mentioned Ryan Preece. Preece is actually the flip of Chris Buescher. He's 28 in stage 1 and 33 in stage 2. I don't hate that either. Bowman's a lot shorter. He's in the 14 range, 14 and 16. So I don't necessarily think I'd go there. But if you want to go Buescher, Bubba, and Preece, that's 6 bets, and they're all at 22-1 or longer. As long as you hit one of those, you're going to make money. And there's a chance you could even hit 2 stage winner bets on those. So I certainly don't even mind if you want to sprinkle in Preece as well in stage 1 and 2. And like I said, I like every Bubba bet. So I just think this is a good spot for especially Chris Buescher in the stage bets. And I think the odds are so long, especially when you compare it to the odds for him to win the race. I mean, 16 to 1 to win the race, but he's 28 and 33 to win a stage. And I think, like I said, I think the strategy almost plays out better to where he could take a stage. So Chris Buescher, stage 1 winner, Chris Buescher, stage 2 winner is my stage 2 pick. And for Stevie's stage 2 pick, once again, he took Toyota to win at plus 140. So that's going to do it for stage 2. We'll throw the green and white checkers on that. Drive through stage 3, cross the yard of bricks, take the checkered flag, and end up in victory lane. And Stevie, we alluded to this already. We're on this. This is both of our favorite bet this week.
Yeah, victory lane. Hey, I think the last like 3 or 4 podcasts we've done together. I know I missed some podcasts here recently, but I'm pretty sure we're running hot on victory lane picks here. Yeah, don't play on words. We're going to Bubba for a top 10. This is by far my favorite bet. I know it's your favorite bet. It screams value. My model is telling me to bet it and bet it again and then bet it one more time. So I'm in. When we're looking at just running position last year, he was 4th in running position here. When we start digging into speed, he was 5th in speed here last year. All the stuff that we've been talking about, he led the race at one point last year with a really good car. They're going to be on a good strategy. Like you said, you basically said it earlier. Bet anything Bubba, and we feel comfortable with it. I mean, this was one of, if not the fastest car in second stage and the beginning of third stage last year. And Bubba needs a win. He's had plenty of speed this year, but he really needs a win. And I think this is, again, going back to the remaining schedule, Iowa, Watkins Glen, Richmond. I don't know if I necessarily have those as like Bubba Wallace tracks. Maybe Richmond, maybe Iowa, but Daytona is his spot. But I think this is a week that, again, 2311 kind of has circled for Bubba Wallace, and I hope he wins because he's a Toyota. So there you go.
Yeah, I love it. And like I said, when I say bet anything Bubba, I don't mean bet everything, right? Because you want to save some bankroll. And if he has a bad day, you don't want to lose like 3 or 4 or 5 units or whatever. But pick your favorite 1 or 2 Bubba bets and bet those. But definitely my favorite is Bubba Wallace for a top 10. I got him 2 to 1 earlier in the week at Bet365. If you have Hard Rock, he is still 2 to 1 there. He's plus 150 now at Bet365. Totally fine with those odds. Yeah, Bubba Wallace, top 10 is our favorite bet this week. They are going to be locked in on him. And again, this is one of his best tracks, period. He's been very good here all throughout his career. So Bubba Wallace, top 10 is our victory lane pick. And that is going to do it for us. Thank you for listening to the Brickyard 400 episode of Running Hot, Action Network's Motorsports Betting Podcast. If you'd like to tail some of the bets we discussed today, look for the quick slip link in the video and podcast descriptions, or go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. We'll be back next week to talk bets for the Iowa Corn 350 at Iowa Speedway. Hey, I was just there at Iowa, Stevie, for the IndyCar weekend. Now we got the NASCAR weekend, so going to be excited to see more racing at Iowa. On behalf of my co-host, Stephen Young, thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week on Running Hot from Action Network.